go now, baby. Right back into the action for another day of the week. Welcome to the Friday edition of Before You Bet, airing live right now on the Covers YouTube and Next channels. If you're on YouTube, smash that like button, smash that subscribe button right down there. A lot of great content here on the Covers YouTube channel. A lot of great content to come. Football season right around the corner. We're going to be all over college football and the NFL. We cannot wait. But on today's show, we cannot wait for a beautiful slate of Major League Baseball games. We got some Olympic basketball tomorrow. We're going to continue our look at NFL futures with division-specific bets today. A lot of interesting markets in division markets. A lot of interesting betting options there. And some hot topics in the sports betting world that we will get to at the back end of the show. If you guys want to participate in the show, very easy to do so. Hit up that comment section on YouTube or on X. Let us know what you're betting on in Major League Baseball today, in the Olympics today, or this weekend, or what your favorite NFL futures bet is. Let us know, and we will read a few off throughout the course of the program. Okay, let's bring in our guy, my first guest. We're going to be ripping through some Major League Baseball. He's going to be with us throughout the entirety of the show. The man with the sexiest smile in sports betting. Jingles, did you catch the Hall of Fame game last night?
I was a little busy going 5 for 5 with the dish and the men's slow pitch 35 plus A, but in between going in and out of the innings, I got a bit of a price mismatch on 365 that way. I mean, I put the picture in our group chat, but the total got smashed. The first half total got smashed. It was released. It moved from like 16 to 17 and a half in some spots, but they never adjusted the team totals. So Houston was favored in the first half. Yes. But their team total was at 7.5, and Chicago's was at 9.5, and Houston's over 7.5 was plus 110. So I put some units on that.
Someone asleep at the wheel. So we're going to talk about the betting outcome at the tail end of the show. Of course, the game got suspended there. Some people got burned. Some people probably got helped out a little bit with some bets getting voided there. But I guess a big standout to me from the game was the new kickoff rule. I kind of liked it. It was interesting to get used to. I think it will add to a little bit more action during these games. You know, it was basically a foregone conclusion on a lot of these kickoffs that it was just going to be a touchback the past couple seasons. So who knows? Maybe we'll see some interesting formations or some more plays. I wouldn't really.
We saw the ball go to the 25 in the first two. That's the first two I saw. I'm like, dynamic kickoff. So excited, right? Chernoff was talking that it might be worth 2.5 points on the season. And then both first kickoffs didn't do anything, went to the 25.
Okay. Yeah, I kind of liked it. You know, I think it will add to some more kickoff returns, but probably not a whole lot. I don't think I would really factor it too much into my betting, especially right off the bat until we see what these teams come out with. Okay, let's get into some Major League Baseball here. Beautiful looking board on the second day of August here. Now, I love coming on the show and telling you guys about how fantastic my Major League Baseball season's going. We passed 20 units. We passed 25 units. I'm ice cold. I've lost 6 straight bets in Major League Baseball, so we're going to look to right the ship. Something's got to give here, and I'm hoping it's going to give here tonight. So let's get right into it. We're going to start things off in the Lone Star State. The Red Sox are intended to take on the Rangers. Maybe a little bit of a buy low spot on Cutter Crawford. Going to go over 17.5 outs at plus 102. Bet that over at FanDuel. Great bounce back spot for him. You got the shit kicked out of him by the Yankees and the Dodgers. No need to sugarcoat it. They smacked them around for 11 combined earned runs. But you really have to consider the competition here, because going in to those games against those teams, he had 18 or more outs in 8 straight starts prior to facing the Yankees and the Dodgers. And a good opponent for him to have a bounce-back game against the Rangers. They've stunk versus right-handed pitching all season. Really bad since the All-Star break. 29th in OPS versus righties in that span. So Cutter Crawford to get back on track over 17.5 outs. Jingles, next up, we go to beautiful Miami, Florida, where the Atlanta Braves are in town. You have a prop you like for this game?
Yeah, let's go starting pitcher, Mr. Schwellenbach. I mean, Atlanta's just been so lucky with what they've got out of their pitching staff. When you look at Reynaldo Lopez and what he's done too, and Chris Sale, obviously. But Schellenbach, if you're that guy, just looking at box scores, you see he might have like 18 Ks over his last 2 starts. That's not going to continue to happen. So the market's high on him, and that's why we can get the under 5.5 at plus money, plus 115 versus Miami team that everybody thinks is trash. Well, they kind of are, but they didn't look that bad. Charlie Morton yesterday had this same strikeout total, which Schwellenbach and Morton probably shouldn't be in the same spot, especially with Morton being on the low end, coming off a couple bad starts. He did get across the line, but he struck out 5 of the first 6 batters, which was pretty good if you were on the over like I was. Then he didn't get his 6th strikeout until the 6th inning on his second last batter. An absolute sweat. Miami bad lineup, but that doesn't always mean swinging and missing. I believe, if I double check, that the game is in Atlanta. I believe that's where we are. I'll double check because, yeah, it is in Atlanta. And a bit, I'm saying that because 90-degree heat and possibility of rain, which always helps the under, especially for a young pitcher. I mean, Schwellenbach started this year in high A baseball. This is a guy that doesn't have a long leash and is projected for 88 pitches. So 6 is a big number even versus the Marlins.
Okay, next up, the eyes of the sports betting world will be on the Houston Astros tonight as Yusei Kikuchi makes his debut for the Astros. A lot of excitement for this one with the Rays in 10. A little bit of a fade here for Kikuchi. Going to go under 16.5 outs, minus 115. So going deep into games has been a real issue for Kikuchi during the tail end of his career with the Blue Jays. He stayed under this number in 8 of his last 9 starts. And he's been in especially awful form here lately. A 7.75 ERA over his last 8 starts. The Astros will be hoping he can turn that around, maybe a fresh start. Hopefully the fresh start won't start tonight. But not a good opponent to get on track against because the Rays actually hitting pretty good against left-handed pitching. 3rd in OPS versus lefties over the last month. Astros bullpen, extremely fresh, just 6.1 innings of work since Tuesday, and no real reason to expect a long leash here for Kikuchi making his debut with the Astros. So I think the first sign of trouble after maybe the 3rd, 4-inning mark, I think they'd be happy to yank him and go to the bullpen. So Kikuchi under 16.5 outs. Next up, we got the Blue Jays. We got the red hot offensively at the plate, at least. New York Yankees. What do you like for this one, Jingles?
Just looking at a quick price change, I do like Soto's over 1.5 total bases. Seeing some massive movement here just off 115. We were at plus 115, and I'm looking back at Bet365 now, and there's got to be an error within it because where the price is on the market, this is plus 135 now. I mean, I'll be honest, I'm on the wrong side of the market, but everywhere is plus 115, plus 125. 135 is a gigantic number, so there must have been some movement within the total or something. But Soto, this is a great matchup. I think the books obviously overvalue Kevin Gausman. Soto's been great versus him, over 13 at-bats. And the possibility of rain. This game actually has the highest rain risk of the afternoon. So with what we'll get, like with what happened with the Hall of Fame game, if he gets over 1.5 total bases, that's a cash. And we take it. If the game gets postponed or delayed and it doesn't finish and he doesn't get there, well, then it's a void. So it's a less risk play on that point. If they do start it, hopefully Kevin Gausman comes out, and then that means Juan Soto could face more of this awful Toronto bullpen. So there's a lot to like other than the fact that I'm on the wrong side of the number. Plus 135 is a giant number for Juan Soto to get 2 total bases versus Kevin Gausman, who he's not the same. And he's, it's a tough park. Juan Soto's a top 5 hitter in all of baseball in his home turf. So, lefty, righty, I like it.
Yeah, Gausman, very much an up and down pitcher here this season. Okay, back to me for 2. Do we have any Tyler Phillips fans watching the show today? If you don't know who Phillips is, maybe we can get him on your radar here tonight. He's off to a fantastic start in his Major League Baseball career, going for the Phillies tonight. We're going to go over 17.5 outs for him, and this is a man who deserves our respect. First 4 games of his big league career, 1.80 ERA, a 0.76 WHIP, along with success keeping his pitch count down, which is obviously very important when you're betting number of outs. Great opponent for him here. He's going up against a Seattle team that is really struggling to generate offense at home. Dead last in OPS at home since June 1st. So, we're going to keep riding the hot hand with Tyler Phillips. And next up, I think a bit of a gift from the sports betting gods here. We're going to be fading Austin Gomber of the Rockies. Over 2.5 earned runs, taking on the Padres here. This looks like a beautiful spot. So why do I say this is potentially a gift from the betting gods? It's because this guy's been god-awful. He's gone over this number in 9 of his last 10 starts overall, and in 6 straight road starts where he has a 9.72 ERA. He's getting absolutely shit-canned. He is a left-handed pitcher. The Padres are good versus left-handed pitching, 5th in OPS in July versus lefties. And they're peaking a little bit offensively here right now, too. Pretty hot at the plate. 6 runs or more scored in 5 straight games. So I do expect them to get to Gomber. He'll have at least 3 earned runs, if not more. In San Diego tonight, there you have it. Our look at Major League Baseball. Hoping to turn things around after a rough 6-game stretch here. Get the weekend started off right. Okay, let's shift over to the Olympics. We will bring on our guy, the Magic Ass Man, Jon Metler. Metler, how are you today?
Good. Canada's up 11 here on Spain at halftime, so we need to win because Canada can potentially finish in the top 2, definitely top 3, and then they'll be on the opposite side of the bracket of the USA, which is very important.
Yeah, that is what you want. And let's talk USA basketball here. You have a bet for this game. We'll get into that momentarily, but they're a monster favorite, minus 34.5 versus Puerto Rico. Now, my prediction when they were favored by 28.5 versus South Sudan, I said they were going to kick the shit out of them. They did beat them quite easily, but they weren't able to cover that number. And maybe it's small sample sizes we're working with in this tournament, right? But just an observation from me, I think Steve Kerr and these players are kind of handling the early part of this tournament like an NBA regular season. They're not going to drive these guys into the ground. There's no need to win by 50 points, 40 points. It's just about picking up the W. So I think they kind of, their foot not fully on the gas yet. Do you think that's fair to say, John?
Yeah, and it's going to play right into the prop I'm going to give out, that kind of angle. I do agree with you. I think they're being very cautious, even just like rotating. I think Jason Tatum was caught off guard when he sat out, but Joel Embiid, that was like, they did load management in the Olympics for Joel Embiid. So it's definitely in play there with the USA basketball.
Yeah, Embiid shouldn't even be on the team. It's not a matter of his skill. It's a matter of he breaks down every single season in the NBA for the team that's actually paying him. I can't imagine the 76ers are extremely thrilled about him competing in the tournament. And he's kind of embarrassing himself a little bit, isn't he?
Yeah, he hasn't been a great FIBA player. I was saying this to some other people. In the NBA, it's like very like you run one action, you run two actions, then you kind of just get your ISO matchup, then you attack it, right? It's like for Embiid, a lot of times just pick and roll with Tyrese Maxey, and then he gets the ball. You can't stand 3 seconds in the lane, so a couple jab steps, you wait for the lane to clear, then you make your move. In the FIBA, you can see like there's so many times where Joel Embiid faces up, and he's like making a jab step, and he's kind of like waiting for the lane to clear, but you can stay in the lane for as many seconds as you want. So the ball essentially has to like keep moving. You have to keep moving the ball in order to like space the defense out, and he looks a little scattered to me. Like those reads are too fast. He's used to like a slower game. His mid-range looks a little rushed. I just don't think I think he's a much better NBA player than he is a FIBA player, but he's a good player.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so monster favorite against Puerto Rico tomorrow. This one tips off around noon Eastern, I believe. 34.5 point favorite over Puerto Rico. Based on what I was talking about them not having their foot fully on the gas, I guess I would favor Puerto Rico, but you have a bet for a USA player. Who are you targeting?
I'm going to Anthony Edwards over 12.5 points. Like you're kind of saying with the load management, the USA basketball minutes are all over the place. This is a tricky spot. So a lot of these teams, like even Canada right now, they need a win against Spain, and they need to win with margin so they can kind of get into that top 2 seeds. USA is going to be the top seed. They have a massive point differential at 2-0. They're not going to lose to Puerto Rico. I think this is a kind of a spot where Puerto Rico is also the flip side of that is Puerto Rico. The only way they can even possibly get into this is they beat the USA, which they're not going to do. So if you're Puerto Rico, USA has already kind of claimed their spot in the standings. Puerto Rico is basically out of the Olympics. what does this look like for both teams? I would say I'm just guessing at LeBron James, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant. I just don't think those guys see the minutes you've seen in the first 2 games here. They'll come out and they'll play probably their normal allotment minutes in the first half, but once it goes in the second half, I would think they would get faded just a little bit. And I think the guy who could pick up those minutes is Anthony Edwards. Anthony Edwards is obviously younger. He comes off the bench. His total was 13.5 for pretty much the first 2 games. Now it's down a point. And I think this is a spot where he could potentially see the most minutes he's had in this tournament. So it's down a point, potential for more minutes. The other thing too, I love about Anthony Edwards in this spot is, one, the Puerto Rico backcourt is very small. It's Jose Alvarado and Tremont Waters. Anthony Edwards is obviously a big physical guard who goes downhill. There's no really rim protection behind him as well. And Anthony Edwards, if Anthony Edwards was playing the 3 of us in a basketball game, he would have no prisoners. He's going right down. Yeah, he's a gamer. So I don't think that it matters if it's a 34-point game. I don't think it matters if they're up by 40. Anthony Edwards is out there to get buckets. That's just how he plays. So I really like kind of his personality with the spot as well, and the number, of course. So Anthony Edwards over 12.5 points.
Okay, yeah, good situation for USA versus Puerto Rico tomorrow. Okay, Olympics really starting to ramp up here. Track and field starts this week. I'm looking forward to that. My favorite event, the 100-meter dash. I'm pretty sure the men's 100-meter race, I think that might be the final event here on Sunday of the Olympics. So kind of like the main event, more or less. So I do look forward to that. So we will have a lot more Olympics coverage next week, especially with the men's basketball as we get into the medal round. But now let us shift gears to the NFL futures. Of course, we saw the Hall of Fame game last night. More on that shortly, but we're going to cover a different futures market on every show right up until kickoff. And today we're looking at division-specific bets. We each have 2. I'm going to get us started. So I love this market that DraftKings had. They have the top 2 in any division. Now, it doesn't matter what order that they're in, as long as they finish in the top 2. And I love this bet for the AFC East, the Bills and Dolphins to finish top 2 in the division. It doesn't matter the order, and you're getting that at almost 2-1, plus 190. So, yes, it is a bet on the Bills and the Dolphins, but it's also a big fade of the Jets and the Patriots. First up, the Jets. I think there's too many red flags to ignore here. Aaron Rodgers turning 41 in December, coming off a serious injury. He's now multiple years removed from high-caliber play. Some people conveniently forget that final season in Green Bay was his worst statistical season since his rookie year. I think Robert Saleh is a disaster. I think he's a bottom 5 head coach in the NFL. He embarrasses himself whenever he gets in front of a microphone. Nathaniel Hackett is still in the building for some reason. Very polarizing team, a lot of distractions. I don't think that they can overcome that. The defense, a lot of points in the second half of last season too. Something to keep your eye on. Not much to add about the Patriots. They're at the absolute bottom of a rebuild here. First-year head coach Drake May has 0 support whatsoever. You take a look at the Bills. I mean, they're a pretty rock-solid regular season team, right? I think as long as Josh Allen is healthy, the Bills are going to be competitive and win double-digit games, something they've done in 5 straight seasons. They still won 11 games last season, despite the wheels almost falling off in the middle of last year. Things got pretty ugly for them. Then, my Miami Dolphins, absolutely. This is a team that's been playing winning football the past 2 seasons, despite some serious injury issues. I think they're due for some injury luck, just like the San Francisco 49ers had some injury luck last season. The last 2 seasons, 2 seasons ago, Tua missed 6-7 games. They still got into the playoffs. People conveniently forget that the defense got absolutely decimated by injuries down the stretch last season. The offensive line was a revolving door. So, hopefully the Dolphins can stay healthy. I think the Bills are going to be there. I like those 2 teams to finish top 2 in the division, plus 190. And Jingles, you're going to push back on me a little bit here. You do not like my Dolphins. You like the Bills. So a similar bet. Break this one down.
I like the Jets more than I like the Dolphins to get into the top 2 in the division. So Bills, Jets. I don't even like the Jets that much. It's just they're maybe arguably one of the best defenses in football. Okay? They're better at defense this year. They won 7 games with who? Tim Boyle, Zach Wilson, and I can't even think of the other person. Obviously. Trevor Siemian. That's who the other one is. They won 70 games with that. 10 wins is coming this year, I think, in this spot. And I know you're excited. I mean, we're both high on the Bills. I mean, they get the full season with Joe Brady. The loss of Diggs and Gabe Davis, I don't think means as much as everybody thinks is, especially with how we're going to run and how much we're going to see 2 tight end sets and spread things out in that sense. But Miami, they've lost some edges. They have 3 hot games in September at home. Jacksonville, I believe, is one of them. So they kind of lose that edge. And then another one's Buffalo at nighttime. So they don't get the Heat game there. This is also a team that's at Cleveland, at the Jets in week 16 and 17, and at Lambeau in week 13. And we know what this team does outside. I know how much you love them, but Joe, it was the same thing. They don't win versus good opponents. They faced the second most backups QBs last year. The defense is replacing 5 starters. They've replaced their DC, Vic Fangio, out, Anthony Weaver in. There's a lot of moving pieces to this unit, and I just don't like maybe how they're going to finish down the stretch, especially if just Rodgers has to play. He just has to play. He doesn't have to play good. He just has to be an average quarterback, I think, for Jets to finish 1 or 2 in the division.
Yeah, I'm not in total disagreement with your assessment on the Dolphins. Yeah, they're not a gritty team. When the lights are shining bright, they're typically not very good. They won that game against the Cowboys on Christmas Eve, which was my Super Bowl, essentially.
But that was it.
Season, which says all you need to know about the Dolphins.
Teams. 1-6 versus playoff teams. That was it. That's the only win.
Yeah. People can knock the Dolphins all they want. Just do not be unfair about Tua. People talk about this guy like he's a backup. He's a good quarterback. He's not a top 5 quarterback. He's a good quarterback.
Where were we last year? What was the talk? Going into last year. Tua's health, right? No one's talking about it still. It's still there. His health is still a problem. We're 1 snap away from being Mike White, Miami Dolphins.
Same as Aaron Rodgers, Justin Herbert, who we're going to talk about shortly too. That's
Easton Stick season, bud. It's Easton Stick. We get to see him in prime time again.
Now we're talking. Okay, let's go to Metler, taking a little bit of a swing here. Now you took the over on the Panthers win total yesterday. You're going to go 1 step further. Break this one down.
Yeah, I'm going even bigger swing. I'm going Carolina Panthers to win the NFC South. Obviously not the most probable outcome, but at plus 1134, I do like it. A couple of things here. So you look at like the switch in coaching. So Dave Canales comes over, like I highlighted with the win total. He was the coach for Russell Wilson when he was in Seattle, and then Baker Mayfield last year. He really helped him last season. Both small quarterbacks, Bryce Young, another small quarterback. The one thing you do really like here is that, Tampa Bay loses their offensive coordinator who basically saved Baker Mayfield's career. And now he flips to Carolina. So it could be like a negative for the Buccaneers that he's gone, and then a huge positive to Bryce Young. And that like directly helps the Panthers within the division here. I do think too, I think the Falcons as the favorite, I put it here down as a groupthink trap. And I do think it comes across like that to me. It's just one of those things where you look at them, you look at like they have flashy players, Kyle Pitts, Bijan Robinson, Drake London, all these offensive talent. And then they add Kirk Cousins, and like in your head, like, yeah, it makes sense. Like they could win the division. They have a quarterback now. I don't think they're still like the Falcons. I look at this division. The Panthers aren't going to go out there and win like 11 games and win this division. But like, would you be shocked if we're like 10 games in and like the Falcons are like 5-5 and the Panthers are 4-6, and you're like, wow, the Panthers aren't that great, but they also could still win the division. So when you're just looking at the plus 1100, I'm going to take a swing. It's more about the overall division, and that I just don't think there's a top team in it. So that's why I'm with the Panthers.
Yeah, it is a dog shit division, that's for sure. I think the Falcons are a little bit overhyped. I think they're really getting off on the wrong foot here in the Kirk Cousins era. I really think they overplayed their hand there with the draft pick after paying Kirk Cousins all that money. Made no sense to me whatsoever. So yeah, I don't mind that. I like Bryce Young. He wasn't given a fair shot last year. Let's see how he can do with a little bit more help around him in his sophomore season. Okay, my turn to take.
Wait, quick. Who knows the backup? Who knows the backup in Carolina?
That's important.
Is it still Andy Dalton?
Yes.
Andy Dalton still got that job. That is the oldest man outside. Is he older than Aaron Rodgers?
I don't think so.
I don't think he is.
Oh,
I'll do this pick. Look it up here when I do this pick.
I got it.
I think. Okay, so I'm going to take a big swing here. AFC West exact order. So you can make this bet at a bunch of different sports books. A bunch of different sports books offer this bet. FanDuel has this at 12-1. It was 9-1 over at DraftKings. So if you like what I have to say, if you want to tail this one, check out the price over at FanDuel. So AFC West exact order. Kansas City, I don't have to make much of a case for them being first overall. And then Denver, Chargers, and Raiders. So obviously just a monumental gap here between the Chiefs and the other teams. The Chiefs are winning this division. I think the three other teams will actually have losing records. I think there's going to be a massive gap between these teams this season. I talked about the Broncos on yesterday's show. This year's version of the team is molded more in Sean Payton's vision. Very easy start to the season for them from weeks 1 to 8. I think they can get off to a pretty good start here. So I think they'll be more competitive than people think. Now, what I had to talk people into here is about the Chargers. Some people like the Chargers, obviously a massive upgrade at head coach, but massive red flag here. Justin Herbert is injured already. Came out yesterday. This could be a major issue. Of course, he ended last season injured. He missed a handful of games to end the season, so maybe a bit of an injury-prone guy here. Plantar fasciitis. He's going to be in a boot for 2 weeks, and that's one of those injuries that really lingers. It just doesn't go away very quickly. And don't forget that Jim Harbaugh did a pretty big teardown, especially on the offensive side of the football. This was a team whose defense was one of the worst in the NFL. So this is at the bottom of a rebuild. As for the Raiders, they have the worst quarterback head coach pairing in the division. Things didn't break right for them in the draft. I'm thinking they were wanting to draft somebody with their first round pick. It didn't work out. So now they got Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew competing to start at quarterback. No Josh Jacobs to depend on in that backfield. And I think they kind of got forced into hiring Antonio Pierce. Josh McDaniels appears a complete 180 from him, but the players really backed him. Now, we saw this situation before when they kicked Gruden out, which he did deserve to get kicked out, I guess, but they filled in with Rich Facili. What was this guy's name?
Yeah, I was trying to think of who that was.
Yeah, and he did a good job as the interim coach. He got them into the playoffs, and then they're like, no, we don't like this guy. And then they have the exact same situation, and I think their hands were tied. The players were backing Pierce, and they're like, do we want to don't want to make that mistake again. They were forced to do it, backed into a corner. And I don't know. I kind of think Pierce is a poor man's Dan Campbell, but he doesn't have the talent that the Lions do. So I don't think he's going to be the long-term answer at head coach. So AFC West exact order: KC, Denver, the Chargers, and the Raiders, 12-1 over at FanDuel. Okay, a team that you and I both like this season, Jingles, the Lions. You like them to win their division?
Yeah, I do. Just getting back to, what stick situation. They're going to run the ball a lot more. They were going to run the ball a lot with Harbaugh now. And now with a possible lingering injury to Justin Herbert, there's going to be a lot of touches and a lot of runs for old Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins if they can stay on their feet and basically the former Baltimore Ravens backfield. But as we get to this division, we go Lions to win at plus 145. What are the Lions? They're a great indoor team. They didn't lose maybe the best offensive piece they have in offensive coordinator, Ben Johnson. He somehow didn't get a job. And he basically gets the same offensive piece back. I believe Josh Reynolds is the only piece that's really gone. And this is a indoor team, 13 indoor games. That is absolutely nuts. 2 other games at Arizona basically can be called an indoor game, I guess, and at San Francisco. So 15 indoor good weather games projected. San Francisco in week 17 there. So maybe San Francisco sitting guys down there at the end. But Detroit gets an absolute great indoor schedule for one of the fastest offenses in all football. Let's say Chicago. Can Chicago be more overhyped, right? Are we just going to assume that just because they have all the pieces? We haven't seen Caleb Williams do anything. Yes, we have great pieces in the wide receiver core, in DJ Moore and Keenan Allen, but can they work together? Can DJ Moore be a guy who gets 5 targets a game if Keenan Allen's taking a bunch? They're bringing over the offensive coordinator from Seattle, so they're going to run a lot more 3 wide receiver sets. But, we don't know for sure. The talent's there. The defense, Chicago didn't add a single player, a single starter, so there's some issues there. It was already a pretty brutal defense. And, Green Bay, the Jordan Love hype is kind of getting a little loud. Yes, same situation with Caleb Williams, has great receivers, probably could use some more health than they did last year. But let's not forget, Jordan Love was kind of a hot mess to begin the year last year. Interceptions, I know you were following that, Joe. Like, just a guy who kept throwing into tight windows all early, and things kind of fell for him. But Detroit should really walk away with it here with 11, 12 wins, I think, in the division.
Yeah, I kind of feel like Jordan Love has been anointed a bit early. He very well might be a great quarterback and a bona fide top 10, top 8, top 7 quarterback for the next decade. But it was kind of like last year. He was awful the first half of the year. Then he finished strong, absolutely. And he looked good in the playoffs too. But everyone was just like an automatic assumption. Oh, the Packers are so lucky. Favre, Rodgers, and now they got Love for the next decade and a half, as if it's just a foregone conclusion that he's going to be Pro Bowl level talent. And he might be. But that was a lot of money to pay a guy who's only had a good half season in the NFL. By the way, I looked it up, and you probably did too. How dare you assume that Andy Dalton is
36 years old.
36-year-old Andy Dalton. I got a couple of years on Andy Dalton. I don't know how that makes me feel. And Amesh in the live chat chiming in. Raiders are a mess. Absolutely. I think they have a shot at being the worst team in the NFL this season. They have some strong individual skill guys, but as a team, I do not like them at all. Okay, Metler, let's wrap up this section of the show. You have an NFC North specific bet. Tell us where you bet this and what it is.
Is that DraftKings? I do agree with you too. I think the Raiders can be one of those teams that like pulls the plug on the season and just tanks for a quarterback at some point because they don't have one. But I'm going division with most combined wins, NFC North plus 330. So hopefully Jordan Love is still half decent this year. I actually started looking at this bet because of the win totals that we gave out in our last show here, where Joe liked the under on the Cleveland Browns, Jingles liked the under on the Baltimore Ravens. The AFC North is the favorite in this market to get the most wins as a division. So the right behind him was the NFC North. You look at the NFC North, you like. Jingles was just breaking down the Lions. You like that you kind of have like that 1A ace who can get you a bunch of wins in the Lions. The Packers are kind of like right behind them. But I think the big one for this is you have your two bottom teams, the Bears and the Vikings. One, they're not going to pull the plug and tank. They both have quarterbacks. You really only see that when a team is looking for a quarterback. They both have like a win total 8.5, 7.5. I think it's the bottom half of this division here that can help you win this bet. I think just top to bottom, all four teams. Like even you look at the Vikings last year, they were 7-10 with Josh Dobbs, Nick Mullins starting games. They were also able to take a lot of that money that was going to Kirk Cousins and put it into their defense. They basically revamped their whole linebacking core. So I think I actually do like them kind of over the win total too. So I think as a complete whole, I think you have a really good shot with this division just from like all four teams look like they can compete and like pick up wins. And the big one for me too is here they're playing the AFC South on the crossover. So Titans, Texans, Jaguars, Colts. They should, as a group, the four of them should be able to clean up a lot of wins from that division. That should really, really help them. Obviously, it's factored in too, but I think that's a big factor here too. Where you would think like even the Vikings or Bears, they could get the top two teams, the Jaguars and the Texans, in that division. So yeah, to me, 1 through 4, I think they kind of offer the best here. So I'm going with NFC North.
Stacked division. Should be interesting to see. The Vikings. They could be a team that plays spoiler, a popular underdog pick, potentially at parts of the season. Okay, so a couple of hot topics here in the sports betting world. Hot on the heels of the Hall of Fame game last night. NFL football is back. Everyone was horny to bet it yesterday. And a lot of people went to bed or woke up feeling completely burned after the game was suspended. I think it was towards the tail end of the third quarter. Metler, break down what happened here with the sports book, some house rules. Some people are not happy.
Yeah, so the house rules is an NFL game has to go 55 minutes for all the bets to be action. The first half bets are still action because they're obviously the whole first half was played, but the game long second half, those usually run void just because that's the house rule. It's 55 minutes. So even though the game might be over, it like go over the total or some bets might have won, they don't always get counted. So that's the controversy. I think the big controversy here is that those house rules are, at least my thoughts, the house rules are very old. I think they could be updated. I think the house were more for when, like, if we went to a window and they would have to like individually, like person to person, figure out like, oh, did this bet already win? Did this bet not, like, did it matter to this bet? I think now with like the apps and the computers and stuff, I think we could probably do a better job of grading ones that were like a clear winner, even though the game didn't go, the full distance type thing. I feel like I think there's a lot of house rules that we could probably, as an industry, jump into and kind of look at, because it's kind of from before we had apps and computers and stuff like that. So that's my thought.
Yes. I am a veteran of getting burned by that specific rule. It first occurred during the pandemic. Korean baseball was a love of many sports bettors. I had a first 5 over, and it easily hit in the 3rd inning. And I'm like, yes, I won my bet. This is fantastic. And then the game gets rained out in the 4th inning, and my bet was voided. I was not happy about it. But probably a lot of happy people who were on the wrong side of their bet. So I would think, right, guys?
Yeah, but you could also, I mean, if the game's already hit the over and you have a cash out option, like cash it out, then you can at least have the argument to say that I wanted to cash that out and didn't need the end of the game, right?
Yeah.
Or follow it like that. There is a bit of an onus on the players, and I know that some books obviously don't have it. But some of the wording within some of the house rules, and house rules obviously differ from book to book. What does it say? DK says there must be 55 minutes or less, 55 minutes or more remaining. 5 minutes or less of a scheduled game left. Bets have action unless the specific market outcome is already unconditionally determined, which is just gray area bullshit that can just log up, just cue a line when you go, oh, I better talk to somebody over there. And if you're out there, if you go on Bet365, that's my favorite book, and you want to talk to someone and you go to that chat and they give you all those AI app options, just go talk to real person, enter. And then it gives you more options. There you go. Yeah. Talk to real person, enter. And then you'll finally get an actual operator, because going through those things is absolutely will pull your hair. But first half over. That's where the money was yesterday. But the funny thing is, so Joe, all that money, all that public money from the opening of 33.5 was all on the under, pushing it all the way to 30.5. And then the sharp, there was an early release from Sharp Syndicate on the 33.5 under, and then Raz hit the over first half over, and some other people hit the over early yesterday afternoon. So Sharps were on the over at 30.5. So probably the books dodged a bit of a bullet, I think, in terms of overall percentage.
Yeah, things like that go both ways. You hear the stories all the time about bettors crying for refunds. They take the over on an NBA player's point total and he gets injured in the first quarter. Well, a lot of people probably had the under on that. They won their bet, an awful call by the referee to end the game, and that decides the game. A bunch of people get burned. Well, that awful call also helped a lot of people. So those things always tend to go both ways. Okay, so another topic here. I don't even know what this is about, but I saw a lot of people discussing this on X yesterday. John, a bet winning tax? What's this all about?
DraftKings is there. So the states that have a really high tax, like where they pay a lot of tax for gambling, they're instituting a tax on their players for where every $10 you win, you pay a 30-cent tax to DraftKings. So so essentially it adds 3 cents to every bet. So again, I tweeted out, I'm assuming what their thought process is. They probably ran studies and stuff. Instead of like making every line -114 or -113, -113, instead of -110, -110, this looks better. Because then you'd go through, everyone would go through and they'd be like, oh, they have the worst odds. They wouldn't get recommended for like odds wise. So then to me, it's like DraftKings keeps making moves that they just want casual players. And I'm sure they think casual players won't pay attention to this. And that's who they're trying to get that's who they want betting with them. So that's the move they're making. I think it's 4 or 5 states that this is going to happen. But it's a big factor. Your biggest factor in betting is the price, right? So they're altering the price for you. It's something you got to pay attention to it.
What were you saying about the difference between, obviously it's easy to do the math on the even money play, but what was your tweet about, like the -300 line versus the even money line?
Yeah, the DraftKings framed it kind of confusingly. So I was going through. I kept going through. I was like, if the money line spreads out, do you end up paying more? But it's just 32 cents on every $10. So it actually doesn't the implied, so like as you get up to, so essentially it's 3 cents on every dollar. So like even money goes minus 103. So then if you go to minus 200, it'd be minus 206, minus 300, minus 309, minus 400, minus 412. But the implied probability, the gap is smaller the higher you get. So if you go to like, essentially if you bet a minus 400, they're paying you like it's a minus 412, but the implied probability gap is smaller. So it's actually less painful, the taxes up there, than it would be on the spread. But they're going to collect, with the way they framed it, they're going to collect more money on those minus 110 bets, which obviously, again, in favor for them, right? Because how many people are betting a minus 400 compared to a minus 110?
Well, let's be honest, they're not even money bets. They're collecting they're collecting that 3 cents on,
right,
that 3 points on 27-1 on old Billy's 6-leg home run prop every day.
Right. Yeah.
Like, that's profitable.
Yeah.
On the wins. It's bananas.
Okay, in the live chat here, JPC4 says, WTF, Metler? English? Yeah.
They're taking your money, bud. They're taking your money. There you go.
Oh.
Yeah, that's all you need to know. Make a long story short. They're taking your money, right?
Yeah. Essentially, you're in sports betting, you want to buy the best price, and they're altering the price on you when you get paid out, not when you bet it. So just pay attention to it.
Okay, there we go. That is this week's edition of Tax Talk here on Before You Bet. Make sure to tune into next week's show for next week's edition of Tax Talk. No state tax in Florida, by the way. We're going to get into that.
Worst tax. What's the worst tax that you pay? Right? Like, it's really tough to beat that cleaning tax on
income tax is stupid.
No, I get it, but like Airbnb, like here's minus $200 for a cleaning fee, and you still have to clean the place.
Yeah,
well, that's the worst tax.
There's some things like
tipping at Subway, right? Like,
tipping. Get Subway. I'm boycotting Subway. Tipping at. Give me a goddamn break. But yeah, like these things that are just made up. Like you'll go to a restaurant, it'll be like convenience tax.
For sure.
Or convenience fee, or like different Ubers. When you're taking Ubers in different cities, there's stuff that will show up and you're like, what the hell does that even mean? Or different hotels. So yeah, there's a lot of we're getting scammed in a lot of ways here, fellas.
But that 3 to 5 points, whatever they're going to say, whatever Robbins said is they're going to do, like, it's only going to get higher, right? They're not going to like make it lower eventually. They'll just see where the threshold is, see how much pushback they get from the betting community. Keep going, push back, and then once kind of that pushback meets a threshold, then they'll be like, okay, that's enough, and then they'll go back down. Like it's inflation of betting. It's fucking madness.
I imagine, Jingles, they're gonna see what it does to their market share in those 4 or 5 states where they can justify because of the higher tax, and then if it does nothing, then you might see it across all the states, right?
For sure, and then you might see it across, and then FanDuel will pick it up, and then it will go across everybody. Like no company. No private or public, they're public traded companies. I know nothing about that, but they're not going to see what the other guys are doing within their industry and be like, look at these guys. These guys are making more money. We probably shouldn't emulate that.
Yeah.
All right. Let's wrap the chat up there. I have a UFC video to record here shortly, so we got to get to that. I got to get some notes together. Pretty good event going on tomorrow afternoon in Saudi Arabia, so keep your eyes peeled for that video if you're interested in betting on some UFC. Thank you to you two fellas for joining the show. Thank you to all the viewers for watching, guys. Best of luck with all your bets tonight on Major League Baseball, this weekend in Major League Baseball, and in the Olympics. We're going to be right back with you guys next week. No show on Monday, holiday up here on Canada. So we're going to take a day to relax a little bit because the grind of the football season is not far away. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Best of luck with your bets, and we will see you guys next week.